OUTA's investigations manager, Rudie Heyneke, who joins us via our video link. Rudie, it's lovely to have you on the program. Thanks very much indeed for making time to speak to us. Yesterday was an hours-long media briefing, and part of what the minister said is that part of what OUTA has said about what's going on at NSFAS isn't true. Just as a start, I wonder if Minister Nzimande or anyone in his team has reached out to you to iron out some of these claims.
Good morning, Yamla, and thank you for having me. The question of did the minister reach out, I can tell you that was news to us yesterday when the minister said that he has got a meeting with OUTA. We don't know about that, but we would welcome to speak to the minister. I think the other thing that that you mentioned, or the minister mentioned, that there's nothing wrong or that we are blowing up the issues at NSFAS. I think one can go back, let's say, to 2 years, to 2020, 3 years, when the scheme was under administration as well from 2018 to 2020. And after that, they received a clean audit from the Auditor General. A year down the line, and the Auditor General gave the audit with adverse findings. So that is not something that OUTA said. That was findings from, the Auditor General. The last financials are still outstanding, and I think that tells you a lot about the affairs and the state of affairs at NSFAS. Yeah, and I'm so glad you've mentioned what you've just said, because part of what people who are watching are picking up is that we've been here before. As you've rightly put it, NSFAS has been placed under administration before. It seems that move did fix some problems, but unfortunately introduced or exacerbated different ones. How confident are you that this iteration of the cycle will help? Well, we hope and we trust that Mr. Nomvolo will, take the reins and that he will make a difference. He's a very experienced public official with years of experience in National Treasury. Also, like you've said in the insert, heading up SABC. So we do believe that he has got the knowledge, the credentials and the expertise and skills to take NSFAS forward and to sort out all these problems. His work is cut out for him. I think, with all the problems at NSFAS and what you've mentioned as well, the disbursement of allowances to students still being done at the TVET colleges by the 4 fintech companies, that Werksman's attorneys last year recommended that the contracts must be terminated. We are 8 months down the line from the release of that report, and we are still sitting with these companies, making a lot of money by doing this or providing this service to NSFAS. But the real issue is that statutory mandate of NSFAS is to aid poor students financially, and that's what they must do. That's their job. And there's no need to take on third parties or service providers to assist them with this mandate and this duty that they have. The public service, for example, pays salaries to millions of employees every month. If they can get it right, why can't NSFAS get it right? Yeah. So, like I said, I think that Mr. Nomvolo has got his work cut out for him. In other words, if I'm hearing you right, these service providers are essentially creating a duplication of something that NSFAS should be doing itself. Absolutely. If you talk about direct payments to students, it must be directly from NSFAS to the student in his personal bank account without any new cards, bank systems, fintech involvement, etc. It's a simple transaction from one account to the other, and that is NSFAS. That's their duty. That's the only thing that they must do. That's what the Act says that they must do. So there's no need to go out on tender and get third parties involved at huge cost, not only to NSFAS, but to the taxpayer at the end of the day. Yeah. From where I'm sitting, we seem to be oscillating from one solution to the other. I mean, part of the reason why NSFAS eventually took over from universities was because there was a concern that some institutions are not paying out the student allowances. What has ironically happened is that centralizing the system has resulted in many other students in all parts of the country not being able to receive these allowances.
I wonder where you reckon the real solution then lies, because we've tried centralizing it. It seems to have brought up issues. We've tried allowing universities to take over. That has its own issues. So what do we do?
I think it is a question of really doing, your due diligence and your case studies and really, investigate and do the research on what is the best possible solution. What we've seen over the past 2 years are definitely not, the best solutions that they can come up with. If we look at the accommodation, exactly the same thing. NSFAS centralizing the accommodation to a huge cost to accommodation providers, who must pay an extra 5% or who will lose an extra 5% just for renting out their accommodation to NSFAS. And that system as well is not up and running. The accreditation process is way behind. There's a shortage of accredited accommodation for NSFAS students. And I think it was pointed out in the Werksman's report as well that there wasn't enough due diligence done on the processes going forward. Yeah.
In yesterday's briefing, the minister was scathing of, I suppose, the now dissolved board of NSFAS, mentioning things like, how they failed to implement some of the recommendations of the Werksman report that you just alluded to, but also saying that the board itself seems to be divided, and that's part of the reason why there was instability at NSFAS. In my mind, serious questions would have to be asked of the chairperson of the board, but he's too now resigned.
Yes, I think we must just go one step back and keep in mind that this is the board, the NSFAS board was the board that the minister appointed.
Right.
So these are his appointees. If he says there was a divide in the board, we don't know when he became aware of that. But and he also said that some people, did an excellent job, but some people tried to go into another direction, if I remember his words correctly. So if he picked that up, in the last 2-3 years, why didn't he act and get rid of the board members who were supposedly going into, other directions? That's the first thing that is, mind-boggling. And now that the chairperson has resigned, the scheme is put under administration. In my view, I think the minister should have acted a long time ago against rogue board members.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's going to be obvious questions around what accountability looks like, right? At the end of that briefing, the minister, I think, was trying to drive home the message that, on the whole, NSFAS is growing. It is able to cater to a whole lot more students today than it was perhaps several years ago, and he's taking that on as a sign or signal of success. I wonder to what extent you agree with him, given even some of the challenges he's conceded to exist in NSFAS.
I fully agree with the minister when he said, this is something that must work. NSFAS cannot fail. If NSFAS fails, it's not only 1 million students that's touched and on which it's got an impact on. They are their families as well. They are the institutions where they are studying. They are the accommodation providers. So it is not only, the student. There's a whole group of people and millions of people that depend on NSFAS not to fail. And like the minister said, they've come a long way by supporting many more students than, say, 10 years ago. And the conditions are better. This is a bursary now. It's not a loan scheme as it was before. So yes, there was huge strides made, but that does not say that you can throw out good governance at the window and that you can just string along without really, investing in good research and due diligence on processes. One other thing that I might just mention is that the minister also said that, NSFAS has got huge problems with its IT systems. And we do believe that, and we've seen that. And we've seen, tenders that's been put out in that sector that just did not, produce the goods. There were millions pumped into the NSFAS IT systems, and still it's not talking to the institutions. And still, we have students that's registered and not registered, or the institution said it's registered, NSFAS says it's no. So all of that, like I've said, Mr. Nomvalo, his task has been cut out for him. This is serious issues, and it is not something that cannot be corrected. It is. I think, in technology today, there's so much that one can do. It's just to get the right people to do the right stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just too much at stake to watch this go away, or rather wish that it will go away. Rudie Heyneke, thanks very much indeed for giving us your take. We appreciate your time.